Yo, skiddly-do, you fine and fabulous folks, and welcome back to episode 21 of Beating Obesity. This episode, we're going to talk about supplements, what works, what doesn't work, and hopefully help you from wasting some money. You can also go to timmaynardfitness.com and download a free ebook. Just scroll down on the homepage. It's called What to Actually Eat. It's a beginner's guide to nutrition that I think will really help a lot of people. So I hope you all enjoy this episode. Well, hello, you fine and fabulous folks, and welcome back to another episode of Beating Obesity. You are joined just by me today, your fine host, I hope I'm fine at least, Timothy Maynard, and today we're going to be delivering some information to your all's minds through the interwebs, and hopefully, you get something out of this episode and can move forth into the health and fitness and weight loss world a little bit more educated and can make a little bit better decisions. That's my hope, that you can gain a little bit of information from this podcast and, walk away and at least make a little bit better decisions. I'm definitely not a know-it-all or anything, but I just want to be able to equip you guys with making better decisions with your health and fitness and getting where you want to be. So we'll hop into this episode very soon. Today's episode is going to be about supplements, everybody's favorite topic, yeah. Seems to be everybody's favorite topic anyways, because everyone's always looking for the magic supplement, the magic shake, the magic pill or whatever that's going to be like the game changer. Like, once I introduce this, like all the fat's going to fall off, or once I get this muscle building weight gainer supplement, I'm going to get so jacked, it's going to be ridiculous. I just got to figure out which one's the best. I'm going to try this one and that one, and then, well, that one didn't work, but got to try. This is like basically what you hear in the health and fitness world. Everyone is always talking about supplements, the next thing, the next fat burner, the next pre-workout, the next weight gainer, protein shake, why this one's better than this one, and all these little details, when honestly, most people are wasting their money. I mean, most people get these giant stacks of supplements. They don't even understand proper nutrition, proper exercise program. They're not getting good sleep. They're not managing their stress or anything like that. They're just going, straight the supplement stack, hitting their pre-workout, their post-workout, their protein, their bedtime shake, their test boosters, and all of this, and then they're just, they're ignoring all the other areas. When I just want to start this out by saying, most of it's backed by some amount of science. That's true. But what they tend to do is take a very little scientific finding and blow it up to this big thing that it's going to be completely life-changing or results-changing, and gets everyone all fired up about it. And, they do have stuff to refer to, so they can, in a lot of ways, present it as something that's going to be gratefully helpful and back it by science and explain how it's going to work. But then you actually look deeper into it, and it's like you're getting maybe 2% extra gains, or you're losing, it's helping you get that 2% of fat loss, which can be helpful, but, for the most part, you're missing the bigger picture. At first, especially if you're new to health and fitness, I wouldn't buy a single supplement. I wouldn't worry about any of it. First, get your nutrition on point. You can have any supplement in the world, but if you're eating tons of calories and just a crappy diet overall, you're not going to lose weight. Second is get your exercise programming down. Are you training for the right adaptation you're after? Are you doing the right exercises to build muscle? I mean, all the protein shakes and test boosters and weight gainers aren't going to help if your programming sucks. And that's just the truth. So you have to get your nutrition down, your exercise programming down, get your sleep down, all these big rocks that are really going to change, are really going to make the changes, the lifestyle changes. Those are where you're going to focus on. Those are where you're going to get 90 to 95% of your results. And then maybe, you'll get an extra 5% tacked on with the supplements you decide to use. But I do want to get that point across, that supplements for the most part, are going to be useless if you're not managing your nutrition and your exercise and your sleep and, getting good sunlight and all these other little things. Those are going to play much bigger roles than the supplements you take. But everyone loves supplements, so we're going to hop into it a little bit. There is some things I would like to tell you all just about supplements in general to give you a better understanding. For one, they're not FDA regulated, which, depending on your political leanings, may be a good or bad thing. This does allow companies to try a lot of new things, and they don't have to have all these regulations, and they can play with new formulas and things like that. But that also allows a lot of junk to end up on the market. There's a reason why some supplements are crazy expensive, and some, like, you can get at Walmart for like $1 for 100 servings. Like, there's things that create those price differences, and they've done a lot of testing now at just like if you go to the Walmart supplement aisle and you see all the vitamins and minerals and ashwagandha herbs and fish oils and just all these things, all these different herbs and vitamins and supplements. They've done a lot of studies now that show that they don't even have a lot of what they claim. And what a lot of them do is they'll have a proprietary blend. Oh my God, I can't talk. But what this means is they'll have like a blend of different ingredients, and it'll show like all the ingredients that are in this blend. But what they'll do is the active ingredients, that they're the most expensive ingredients that are supposed to, quote unquote work, they'll put just enough in the supplement to say they have it in there, and then they'll load it down with all these fillers and these things that are not helping you and may even be harming you. But then they can still say, look, we got ashwagandha, look, we have beetroot in here, look, we have reishi mushrooms in here. But they'll have such a small amount of those ingredients, and then they'll just have tons of just like random grasses that do nothing for you. But still, then they can sell that supplement as like an immune boosting supplement or a fat burning or whatever it is. But the active ingredients are so low, you're going to get absolutely no benefit from. So there's a lot of supplements out there like that. And then there's a lot of supplements that have stuff in them that they don't say they do. Sometimes they've done this with a lot of pre-workouts and stuff. They'll have like super stimulants that are rivaling drugs in a lot of ways. And then they've found pro-hormones in a lot of them. So they'll say like, oh, this help your gains, and because of this and this. Well, that ain't really helping you. It's the little bit of pro-hormones they're not telling you about they put in there. So be careful with your supplements. Don't just buy anything from any company. They find heavy metals in a lot of them, and just a lot of them are just, they're doing whatever they can to maximize the profits and minimize how much, it costs to make and get out there. So those are kind of without any regulations on them, you let a lot of that stuff fall through the cracks. But it also allows companies that provide quality information and quality products to rise to the top, and they'll often get their products third-party verified and lab tested, and you can look at this where they'll hire other companies to test their products, and they'll show the purity, the ingredients, and you'll know you're not getting scammed. And once you find these brands that you've looked and you believe in them, they provide good information, they seem to be high quality, they're not putting junk in their supplements, and then once you trust that brand and you find brands you like, you can find good ingredients at good deals. It's weeding through the mix of junk out there. Okay, and another thing I would like to say about supplements in general is a lot of them are heavily, heavily, heavily dosed with artificial sweeteners and flavors. Some of them use just plain sugar, which I think most people know by now isn't great, but a lot of them use tons and tons and tons of sucralose. And I'm not just like saying just enough to barely sweeten it up. I mean, they load these things down to where it tastes like when you're eating a protein bar, you might as well be eating a candy bar, or you're drinking a protein shake or a pre-workout shake. It's like, man, this is like way sweeter than soda. Like, this is crazy. And sometimes they've put like 2 or 3 times the amount you're supposed to have in a day in a serving, and they're so sweet. And it's like, what kind of crazy flavor can we get next? And they start missing the point of what they're actually there to do, which is benefit your health and performance. And they just, oh, what kind of cool flavor? Can I get like lemon lime raspberry with this one? Or can I get a chocolate milk protein shake or something? Chocolate cookies and cream, like all these crazy flavors. And if you've listened to the other episodes, we've talked about artificial sweeteners and things like that. So if you're taking tons and tons of these artificially sweetened supplements and stuff, I mean, you're just getting a complete overload of sucralose and things like that. So we'll start getting into some of the more individual supplements that are quite popular. And these are just some I see a lot advertised. I see a lot of people asking questions about, see a lot of people using. And I don't think a lot of people know, they're kind of just, they work to an extent, but like I said, they take a little bit of science, a little bit of mechanism, and explode it into this big thing. So first we'll talk about fat burners, which I'll go ahead and say most of them just are a waste of time. I've tried the hydroxycut. I've tried another one, starts with an A. Starts like an AL something. I can't remember. But I've tried that. I've tried the raspberry ketones and all of this. I've tried all of this in the past, and none of it worked. None of it helped. Here's what most of them do. Most of them just ever so slightly increase your base metabolic rate, which is how many calories you burn just throughout the day, just, living your life. And they do this by adding stimulants. And basically, this is why coffee and green tea have been shown to be effective fat burners, because they're stimulants that ever so slightly raise your metabolic rate. And also what happens with caffeine, which is a stimulant, is it reduces your appetite. A lot of people notice this. They'll drink a cup or two of coffee in the morning, and they're not hungry for a while. And that's basically what most of these pills do. They make you feel like you don't have to eat as much food. I mean, they're not really burning fat, which is what the name implies. They're like more appetite control. And really, it's like, why buy all these expensive supplements if you could just have a cup of coffee in the morning and it's going to do basically the same thing? That's my advice. I mean, there's some Cambodia, Garcinia, and like I said, they all have a little bit of science. From what I've seen, most of it comes from the stimulants and the appetite suppressants. Next, we'll go to testosterone boosters, which are not so much for advertised towards women, but some do use them, but mostly men who want to pack on muscle. And people think having crazy high testosterone is the holy grail of muscle building, and it is definitely true. It is an anabolic hormone, but what people really don't realize is, our testosterone is constantly going up and down at all times. If you're watching your favorite football game and your team wins, you get a testosterone spike. If your team loses, you get a testosterone dump. So we're constantly going up, higher levels and points of the days, lower levels. If you find somebody you see that you're attractive to, your testosterone gets a spike. So unless you're taking synthetic testosterone, your testosterone is already having peaks and lows and valleys and going up and down at different points depending on what's happening. So it's never at this static level anyways. And they've shown these small influxes in testosterone, from what I've seen, doesn't really affect muscle building or athletics in any way, because it's constantly being moved up and down anyways. Now, if you take synthetic testosterone and artificially jack it up to where it can stay at a very elevated level, that's something completely different. But what most of these testosterone boosters do is there's like three main ones. There's tribulus, ZMA, and D-aspartic acid, and they're all supposed to increase testosterone. And tribulus, I've seen, doesn't for most people really do much, and then there's ZMA, which is like zinc and magnesium and some B vitamins that are supposed to help. But the thing people don't realize with them, if you're not already deficient in zinc and magnesium, yes, they're used in testosterone production, but if you're not already deficient, taking more isn't really going to help. Whereas if you are deficient in those things, that can definitely help bring your testosterone up, but that's more of a deficiency problem than adding extra things. So ZMA, I mean, unless you're deficient, that's going to not really help. And D-aspartic acid, so it does have small effects on some people, but as we said, them very small rises and drops, don't really benefit you that much over the long term. They don't really translate into increased fat burn or increased muscle gain. And most people who take these, even if they do see a small rise at the beginning, their body balances it out and it comes down to baseline. So for the most part, unless you have low testosterone issues, they're going to be pretty useless. And the number one thing you can do to raise your testosterone levels is strength training. Nothing else is going to raise your natural testosterone levels like strength training, and second is going to be nutrition. So, those things. All right, let's move on to the next big one, which is your protein powders. I don't know anyone who works out personally that doesn't use some type. I mean, there's tons of people. Don't get me wrong. I do know people, but I'm just saying that most people I know in the gym, or even if they're just runners or whatever, they take some kind of protein powder. And this is because protein's been, supported as this ultimate macronutrient. You need tons of it to grow muscle. It's the muscle building nutrient. And it's true to an extent. And especially if you're strength training, you do need more protein than the average person. But just to meet your requirements. And once you start going over your requirements, extra protein isn't going to mean extra muscle. Your body can only use so much, and it's only going to use what it needs. So you should use protein powder to hit your protein requirements. Now, if you can get all of that through Whole Foods, there's no reason to take a protein powder. If you're eating plenty of eggs and you're adding beans and different fish and different, beef and just these liver and just really, really protein dense sources, and you're able to hit your protein goals, depending on what they are, it'll be varied for different people, then you don't really need a protein powder. But if you're somebody who is on the run a lot, has trouble getting enough, and are afraid that they may be missing out, then a really high quality protein powder may be helpful. If you're trying to really gain muscle and you're doing a lot of heavy strength training and you're not eating enough protein, then a protein powder is going to be helpful. But as you can see with just like the testosterone boosters, it's only going to be helpful if you're already deficient in what you need. So supplements are all about supplementing your lifestyle and to hit what you need. Like, none of these are magical nutrients that are going to change your life. It's just about getting what you need. And there's many different types of protein powders. There's whey protein, which is purported as super fast absorbing, casein protein that they say, take before you go to bed because it's slow digesting and you'll be making gains overnight. And then there's egg, which is a medium, and there's plant proteins, which are also kind of medium digesting. Really, I personally, there's a theory to the whey protein and that you take post-workout because it's absorbed super fast. But there's also theories to you take a blend, so you have some fast, some medium, and I really think most of it comes down to getting the amount of a protein you need for your body and your goals than it coming from a specific source like that. That being said, I personally like a plant protein. Mainly, I'm not a huge dairy fan. Some people, it works fine. I don't really have any issues with it, but I don't really like it either. I usually use a plant protein, and you have to be careful because some plant proteins do contain a lot of heavy metals, so find a good brand. And but I also don't like the idea of just super quickly absorbing all my amino acids with the whey protein. I don't know that that's a great idea. I would rather have a more medium digesting thing, because I have seen some insulin responses to just ridiculous absorbing high amounts of amino acids. So, on to the next one, yeah. Creatine. Okay, this will probably be the one I talk the best about. It's naturally found in the body, and you can get it in certain foods, in meat. It's not found in plants, but it's especially found in red meats. And there's some cognitive benefits that's been shown, but more than anything is it helps with the short exertion. So if you're doing a sprint or you're lifting a heavy weight, what creatine's been shown to do, let's say you're deadlifting and you have a weight that you can do, normally you can do 3 reps max then. People who supplement with creatine can often then get 4 or possibly 5 reps. So you're not, it's not steroids. It's not technically making you ridiculously stronger, and it doesn't give you muscle. But what it does is allow you to squeeze out 1 or 2 reps more than you normally would be able to. So it ever so slightly increases your performance. And what happens when you ever so slightly increase your performance is you're doing more overall volume and work, which translates to more muscle. So when people say creatine builds muscle, this is how. It allows you to do 1 or 2 more reps, whether you otherwise wouldn't be able to. And in turn, that leads to more muscle over the long term. And you don't need much, anywhere from like 3, 4, 5 grams a day. And just simple creatine monohydrate. It's super, super cheap. Almost all studies have, there is some like kidney things. If you have bad kidneys, you may want to avoid it. But most studies have shown it's super safe long term, and it's one of the very few supplements that study after study after study shows it does enhance performance, and there isn't like this flip-flop where maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't. Creatine is one of the few that have been studied very well, and almost every athlete does use because it does work. All right, let's move on to the pre-workouts. This is probably one of the most popular type of supplements out there, and I think it's simply because people like getting high. They like changing their consciousness, they like getting jacked up, they like getting fired up, and that's what pre-workouts basically do. For the most part, they're stimulants, and that's what gives you a better workout. You ramp your nervous system up when you take stimulants, so it's firing quicker, and you're just hopped up and jacked up, so you have more energy to do more work. So that's where most of it comes from. Now, there are some extra ingredients that, most of them are loaded with caffeine, and some of them have ridiculous amounts of caffeine. Ridiculous amounts. It's like drinking 10 pots of coffee. If you become too reliant on those types of pre-workouts, it's going to be hard to do any type of exercise without those, because you get so used to being so ramped up. And not only do you get used to the feeling of that, your central nervous system actually gets used to that excited, ramped up feeling, and it doesn't fire correctly then when you're not used to that, and then you're always having to take so much caffeine you can never just function without it. But they do add some other ingredients, and if you're going to get something like this, make sure they're dosed properly. Like I mentioned earlier, some supplements, they have the effective ingredients in there, but if they're not properly dosed, they're just useless basically. But some have things like beta-alanine and citrulline and nitric oxide, which all have performance enhancing properties. But like I said, they're each going to give you like a 1 or 2% benefit. And then a really good pre-workout, you're going to get most of the benefit from the caffeine and stimulants, and then you're going to get a little bit of benefit from the nitric oxide. It does improve endurance, but like I said, you're getting such a small benefit unless, you've already maximized everything else, that you're not going to get a whole lot. I've used to be a huge fan of pre-workouts, and I still use them a lot, mainly because I just like the feeling. And but I mean, I just use black coffee most of the time now, and sometimes I'll have some mushroom coffee with some lion's mane in it. And I honestly can tell very little difference than when I used to take tons of other quote-unquote performance-enhancing ingredients. So, you can try them out, but honestly, a good strong cup of coffee will do 70 to 75% of what almost any pre-workout's going to do for you. And we'll move on to the last one I'm going to talk about today, which is sports drinks. This is your Gatorade, your Powerades. Basically, they're electrolytes mixed with sugar. And if you're an athlete who has a multiple hour-long or even an hour-and-a-half-long event where you're going all out, you're performing everything you have, then yes, this is going to be beneficial because you are burning so much glycogen, which is stored sugar, and you're sweating so much water and salt, you're going to need to replace those. But for the average person, I mean, if you're in the gym, even an hour at a pretty good workout, you're not going to need to be taking in tons of electrolytes and sugar. For the average person, that's only going to be extra calories from a source that you don't necessarily want. It's going to raise your blood sugar and cause insulin dumps. And it is true that during exercise, you're going to uptake this sugar to use more. But the average person isn't going hardcore burning through all of their muscle glycogen and just being depleted. So, a lot of the time you're just, especially if you're trying to lose weight, you're doing the opposite of what you want your workout to do. You're wanting to, burn fat and burn calories. And if you're just taking that in, then you're not really getting all the benefits from that. Plus, you're getting all the added sugar, which big sugar spikes and intake have been shown to lower testosterone. And just, I think 90% of people who are drinking these don't need to be drinking them. And if you get used to constantly having a high sugar intake during your workouts, your body's going to always be searching for that. But, I do workouts fasted sometimes, and it takes a while to get used to. But once you teach your body how to get to really manage its energy systems, then you can start relying on fat for fuel a little bit more during your workouts, and you ain't constantly have to take in all of this big sugar. So, sports drinks, unless you're having a really long event to where you're pushing yourself and, you're just really burning that muscle glycogen and sweating like crazy, they're going to be pretty well useless, and a lot of them have a lot of artificial things. So if you do use one, find a natural one. And if I would choose coconut water, because it's about the most natural version you can find. It's full of electrolytes. It's got a little bit of sugar, and it's got some vitamins and minerals in it too, which are going to help. So, if you were going to use a sports drink, I would use coconut water, and I wouldn't overuse them. And the main point of this is supplements are to supplement your lifestyle and your plan. None of them are going to be magic. None of them are going to give you all these, crazy gains or anything like that. Most of your results are going to come from nutrition, workout programming, sleep, and overall lifestyle. 90 to 95% of your results are going to come from that. And then you're going to get, if you really want to maximize certain things or you have deficiencies that you need to cover, just want to take things to a different level, then you'll add that 5% of supplements in. Anyways, this has been the Beating Obesity Podcast. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, please subscribe and leave us a review. You just got to go to search on iTunes and type in Beating Obesity. Find us there, leave us a review. And if you want to know more, you can go to timmaynardfitness.com, where you can also find a free ebook on what to actually eat. Just scroll down on the homepage. I hope you all have a wonderful little day. Until next time, this has been the Beating Obesity Show.